Well, hey, everybody, thank you for joining Act Three. Always delighted that you tune in every Monday at 1 o'clock on CHLY 101.7 FM. I'm Kathy Holmes, delighted to be with you today. And in the Zoom booth and on the BC Ferry, my guests are here to share what's going on with Reconciliation Theatre, Tom Rokeby and Pete Kitewayhat. I hope I got that right. Hey, guys, how you doing?
Great, Kathy.
Great to see you both. Now, Pete, you are actually on the BC Ferry as we record this, so I think we're going to start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became the director of your latest endeavor.
Yeah, my name is Pete Kitewayhat, as you said before, and you did say it correctly. That was great.
Yahoo!
Yeah. Um,
The only reason I say
yeah.
that is most of our guests know that if I mess up their name, it's a compliment. It's never meant to be otherwise. It's hilarious because no matter how many times I even practice it, I often get it wrong. So thank you for that.
Oh, yeah. No problem. Yeah. A little bit about myself. I guess I'm from Treaty Six territory, Makwesing First Nation Reserve. Yeah, I've been oddly enough, my whole life I kind of worked in construction in the oil sands, and then when the oil sands went down, I went to university to pursue a film degree, and at university, I took a a theater class, and that theater class translated into a grant from Canada 150, and from there, Bruce Smiley from the Globe Theatre saw that performance and took it to the main stage at the Regina Theatre. And from there on forward, I just kind of just been doing theater, not through academic work, but just like through that momentum. And I often say that I do theater and performance by trade, not the other way around. I didn't try to,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I think that's a really great way to sort of, help share the passion that we have when we start. For many people, theater starts while they're going to school, whether it's in high school or uni, and they take that career on to the next level. And so your next level right now is that there's a play coming on in town pretty quick here called The Boy in the Treehouse. And I understand that you're directing it. Is that right?
yeah, that is correct. How that came about is that my my partner, I used to live in Vancouver, uh, and me and my partner got pregnant, and suddenly our household turned into like a family of five, and Vancouver just kind of came out of price range. So we moved to Nanaimo, and everything I do, every time I move in a new place, I just look up everybody and just add them on Instagram and Google it, and I found RTS. Uh, Also kind of through the Crimson Coastal Dance. I went through a couple of their dance workshops,
Yeah.
and I got introduced to Tom Rokeby, and I just really just dove head into like attending their EGMs, their meetings, just really trying to get a feel of like performance in Nanaimo and see where I could fit in. And Mr. Rokeby took a look at my CV and Googled me, and he liked the stuff I've done, and since we're doing an Indigenous play, it would probably would be the best choice that we have an Indigenous director, and I never directed before, and I guess at Reconciliation Theater, they're always trying to move new people into different roles and to like really build up their skill set. And I have always been interested in directing. Uh, Getting through, I think everybody does. They're like, I can direct. I'm gonna be the best director than that guy or whatever. Some people,
Yeah.
not me,
I
not
was,
me,
I
other
was gonna
people.
say, it's easy to say that from the cheap seats, but when you're actually doing it, it's a totally different thing. But listen, Pete, I'm gonna just bring Tom in for a quick second. So just because Tom has
Yes.
been a regular guest on the program, so many of our audience knows who he is and why his work and Reconciliation Theater is so very important. But for those that haven't heard, Tom, would you mind jumping in and telling our community really like what your theater group does, what it is that you had hoped for, and really the story behind The Boy in the Treehouse.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. And part of our story is all the support we've gotten from Act Three over the years, but we'll get to that in a minute. We started, prior to COVID as a response to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and some local, theater lovers, both Indigenous and settler, gathered to read plays together. We did that on a monthly basis, and like I said, we actually did it right through COVID. And when live events reemerged after COVID shut them down, there was this natural energy in the community that we had formed to take it from a play reading circle into a production company.
Mm.
It's been amazing to see how it's grown so quickly. We did our first show 4 summers ago, and this will be our third time touring our productions. For your viewers that don't know Reconciliation Theater, we're an Indigenous-led nonprofit society, and our mission is to spotlight Indigenous talent and to share that with audiences across Vancouver Island. And in doing that, we hope to kind of desegregate and decolonize some of the theater spaces that could be more inclusive to everybody. This summer we'll be doing The Boy in the Treehouse. It's a piece of family theater, and that's a bit of a new genre for us because we want to be able to offer our artists a really broad experience. We don't want to do one kind of theater. We may have a central focus of working with Indigenous theater, but that really opens us up to all styles. And so this summer we're actually doing something a little bit different. We brought in Pete, and what a joy to have met him. Thank you, Holly from Crimson Coast Dance, for making that connection. What a wonderful person she is.
It sure is.
A great leader in this space and using arts and reconciliation. And so that connection was really a great opportunity for us. We were so glad to meet Pete. And for us to have our first Indigenous director of our main stage productions. So I get to take a step onto the stage, and Pete goes into the big chair, and we're
Ah, I
gonna
love it.
and we'll and he gets to lead us. And the fresh energy has just been absolutely amazing. We're so excited about this July.
Well, I'm really excited for you as well. And Pete, welcome to Vancouver Island. Welcome to the Rock. I totally understand why you would have moved here. It is very expensive in Vancouver. It's becoming very expensive here as well, but you found your roots. You're here now, and what a great gift for you to take your first role as a director with such an inspiring play. What have you found to be the learning curve that goes with that? How have you found that this transition has really pulled your great talent out for the rest of our community to view?
Uh, yeah, the learning curve is the learning curve. I want to say,
Right?
because your expectations of like how you want to be as a director and how you kind of like these shower thoughts of like interactions you have between actors and how you're going to change from what you learn. But the consequences of like learning is that you learn and you just have to like dig in and just be patient about the time that for yourself and with others as you engage in the new role that you're encompassing. Uh, the other thing too is like the people management, which is very uncreative. I want to say in a way. Uh, I like to like jump in. I feel like I'm a performer first. I'll just jump in and I'll just do a bunch of stuff and then whatever sticks sticks. But then I'm just like, hey, could you do this, please? Or
Right?
maybe if you don't, okay, whenever you're ready, okay, go. Or yeah, yeah. Or was that? Did I say go wrong? I'm sorry. I didn't. So there's a lot of like things that like you gotta believe in yourself. You gotta trust yourself, and you gotta push down your insecurities and uh, and yeah, the other thing too is like you gotta try not to baby people, I guess, in a way.
Hmm.
For some reason, it's kind of like you're not respecting their professional practice in a way. You know what I mean? So you guys, they're people are actors or professionals, and they know what to do, and you just gotta trust them. Yeah.
Well, and there's that, and there's also that whole vision thing. It's what your vision is, along with the creative process, and then the way that that vision is received along with their creative process. So it's not, it's a very multi-dimensional thing when you're doing directing. You're having to, take the idea that you have in mind and still let the actor do their work. And I can imagine that I've never directed in that field before, and certainly not for stage. I spent a lot of time in theater over my long life, but that's not ever been something that I've done. And so I'm always inspired by how directors have that focal, like where does the inspiration come? You read the script, and then what do you see when you're trying to put it together on stage?
Yeah, if I could expand on that, one of the things that Tom has said during the production, and it kind of really changed my directing style, is that um, I did kind of have like a vision of like how people say their lines or what do they do
Yeah.
exactly. But like he said that the most interesting thing on the stage is the person and the actor, and
Yes.
that's kind of what makes a great actor. So I just tried to facilitate their awesomeness and allow it to like to come through uh, in a way. The other thing that kind of hampers this creative process is the try to do it safely
Yes.
and 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 making sure that people are really keeping care of themselves. I know from my personal experience as an actor, you really want to push the edges and really just make this compelling performance at the expense of yourself.
Yeah.
And those
Yeah.
are the kind of things that I want to try to deter the actors from doing if I ever see it. And also to trying to keep the space in a happy space, like a place of creativity and a place that people just enjoy. Because what is theater if you are not enjoying it, to making
Well,
it?
both as an actor and I think from the audience, because the audience can feel that too, right? I mean, it's really, there's a bigger, broader feeling when you're on a set. Now, so because I'm not familiar with the script, I wonder if either of you, whoever wants to jump in, without giving the whole farm away, for lack of better words, Tom. Yeah, so for our listeners who can't actually see the screen that I get to see, you guys will see this on YouTube, but there's some pointing going on to Tom. Tom, can you tell us a little bit about this script? And I'm also curious about the number of actors and support mechanisms that are there for this production. But a little bit about the plot. Does it have, something to do with reconciliation, or is it just a fabulous story from an Indigenous perspective, or both?
Well, Drew Hayden Taylor is perhaps the most prolific Indigenous playwright in Canada,
Yeah,
living in Canada today. And we did one of his pure comedies a couple of summers ago called The Berlin Blues, and it was a lot of fun. His work is incredibly accessible. His work is very easy for anybody who's new to the theater to go and just really have a really enjoyable time and
yeah.
probably learn something, whether you like it or not. This is a family piece, and it focuses on a young boy of mixed ancestry. He has an Indigenous mom and a settler dad, and mom's passed away.
Mm,
And so he's struggling with his identity, having gone through that.
yeah.
And so he takes to his treehouse in order to see if he can connect with his Indigenous side. And it's more or less successful. Not to be giving it away, but he does come around to a better understanding of himself. What do you think?
Oh, that's not what I thought the play was about at all. No, I'm joking.
Lovely.
That is more
Uh-oh.
nuanced than that. No, I'm kidding.
Ah, that's fun.
That's
Ah,
that's very that's very accurate. What the play is about.
yeah.
Uh, the I guess like the if I could expand on the subtext a little bit more. Yeah, it's about a relationship between a son and father
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, for the most part, and then just navigating uh, that that dynamic that has they experienced in their lives, and we'll see what the outcome with that. You have to pay to see. the outcome. Okay, all right.
In
That's my
other words,
plug.
yes. In other words, let's push those tickets. Speaking of tickets, in a little while, we'll find out more information on how people can enjoy this program and when it's being held and all the good stuff behind that. So if you have just tuned in, I'll just take a second because perfect segue, right? If you've just tuned into Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM, thank you for doing so. We're talking with Pete Kitewayhat, I got it this time, I think, and also with Tom Rokeby about their newest play that's coming out, The Boy in the Treehouse from Reconciliation Theater. And so grab yourself a piece of paper and a pen because in a little bit you're going to want to write down all the details so you can get those tickets as soon as possible. It's going to be wonderful. I was, at Berlin Blues. So Tom, when you said it was the same author, I'm like, oh yes, it's going to be fabulous. Like totally a great show. And so, because I have you back, Tom, like, why this play? Why now? Let's put it that way. Why this play and why now?
Well, I think as a company, I talked about us trying to offer a diversity. And last summer, we
Yes.
were able to feature an original piece by Dan Puglis. And it had a bit of a darker message about
Did.
climate change and, kind of the potential for our ecology to really get the best of us. So we wanted to give our audiences a little something different this summer. And we also wanted to expand into not just featuring family theater, but to actually work in an intergenerational manner. Pete talked about the show being about a relationship between a father and a son, and it's really neat because Pete and I are both fathers, and we both have sons, and they've been around the production, and so we've had this group of teens. There's another character in the play who's also played by a very talented 13-year-old
Mhm.
actor, and so we've been able to kind of bring this we've always wanted to do the best by our kids, and
Yes,
we've always wanted to be able to do theater, and sometimes those things are difficult to balance because we often leave our families at home in order to pursue our passions. And so we've kind of built something this summer where we've been able to include those people. For instance, my son is one of the leads in the play, and last year they worked with a different theater company while I worked with Reconciliation Theater. We didn't see each other, Kathy. I really enjoyed their play and they enjoyed my play, but this has been a really great experience to not just put on a play, but to spend time with our kids. And if I could
absolutely.
drop in a new hint, if Pete's also a new father of a beautiful newborn baby. So these themes are
Oh,
these themes
congratulations.
are running deep in our world these days.
That's so fantastic. I mean, as a grandmother of four, I just saw my kids recently, and it's one of the reasons why the last couple of episodes we've had on Act 3 have been encore performances, is because I got to hug and kiss my four grandchildren who are 6 years and under. So trust me, I know what you mean. This new life that comes in. Congratulations, Pete. Welcome to fatherhood again. That's a fabulous. Is this your first? This is your second child, Pete?
Yeah, that's correct. That's my second child. Yeah, we had the baby on November 4th, and
Oh,
we had a home birth, and we almost went to the hospital, but we called the ambulance, and like all of the fire department came inside our new home and checked out the
wow.
see the baby birth. So there's our connection to Nanaimo. They were the fire department was present in the birth of this baby. They're
That's
in the hallways
amazing.
hanging out.
So now the baby's going to the theater while you're doing your directing, as well as your other child, right? Your son.
That is correct. My son comes with me to theater, to the rehearsals. The baby stays at home with the mama.
Oh, well, that's okay. The baby is still very little yet, right? November's not very old for sure.
We all met, if I can say, we all met the baby when Pete brought his original script to the Winter Performance Writers Intensive. He wrote a script called Indigenous Dad's Hike, which is something I hope we see in the future. But yeah, we all got to meet at that point a quite new mom and new baby, and they're just such a beautiful family. So really happy to have them in the fold.
the world is a better place when our children get to enjoy theater. And I must say that, as life has gone on for me, the theater in young people that builds some character in children that is very different from any other kind of performing arts or from any other sport activity or what have you. The theater just has just a beautiful essence about it. So when you talk about your son being one of the leads in this particular play, Tom, how does it feel to see your son growing up and taking lead roles?
Well, I wish I could have said I could do anything to stop it. This kid was born to be on stage. I
Yeah.
don't know where they get it from, but there's no stopping them. In fact, I just got back from the Nanaimo Pride Fest where they were performing. They sing, they play guitar. Like I said, last summer they were in Artist Collective Theater's park performances at Swalana. Um, they grew up with me as a drama teacher, and so they've been going to things like North Island Regional Drama Festival their entire life. That special something that you talk about in the theater, and studies have shown it's empathy. We actually learn how to treat each other better. We actually know that the experiences that people have on stage, this is something you have to be cautious about it, but it's really interesting. When you are angry with somebody on stage, the body doesn't know that it's pretend.
Yes.
Okay. So it actually has a real profound impact. Now, let me make that not so scary. When someone on stage tells you that they love you, your body also doesn't know that it's a play. And so
Yeah.
you get all the positive feelings of someone coming to understanding, coming to common ground, all the things we see and experience in theater, our bodies actually feel them. So I'm really incredibly proud of my son. He's working really hard, and it's really cool. And I don't know if Pete feels the same, but as an artist who's aging, one of my goals is to give a better. I want kids in Nanaimo to have more opportunities in the arts than I did.
Yeah.
And so that's really cool to be able to start providing that.
Well, in an age as well where there's so many cuts in school curriculum, I think it's just so essential that we keep the theater going along in school and outside of school. When I was young, we had musical productions that were done outside of my actual high school, but that was a great entry level point. And 60 years later, I can tell you that the world is a better place knowing that I've learned so many things from the theater that I've carried with me past university, past school, past life. Everything really drives from the theater and remembering you're right about how to treat people and that camaraderie that goes with it as well as the characters. They talk about, wearing somebody else's shoes. As an actor, you get to do that. That's a very true experience, right? You get to walk that mile. So, Pete, as I know that you're on the ferry, and so I appreciate that you're having this interview with us today. What have you learned from being on stage in your life? What has been your some of the things that you've taken with you in the business of living?
Yeah, to be honest, like obviously I'm doing a play called Indigenous Dad's Hike, and that is with reason because my father wasn't really there around. And then throughout my life I kind of had like different fatherhoods, mostly friends of like how to engage in the world as a man or as a person. And basically it was like weird idioms, you know. I won't share them because they're idiotic, uh, but as I moved into theater, theater is like a more of a personal space and like self-development. And to develop these roles and these characters, you kind of have to embody that. So you kind of have to do like a lot of self-reflection, self-exploration, and kind of just make yourself more open to like share the experiences and express those experiences and and that really kind of gave me the fundamental steps to really start examining myself and improving the behavior that I saw as problematic, and just building stronger relationships with those around me and those who love, and even those I don't love. Like you may have terrible experiences with other people, but you still got to engage in it in a healthy way. And
Yeah, for
theater
sure.
has really theater has really allowed me to, I guess, has gave me the consent to do it, and the opportunity to really take those steps for it.
That's an interesting choice of words, consent, that permission to step outside
Yes.
of what you feel to be, kind of the existence of whatever normal is supposed to be or not normal. Um, I noticed that in your last comments though the ferry was starting to have you fade in and out. So I just want to warn our listeners that there may be some transmission issues as a
Dad,
result.
can you go
If
outside?
I'll jump over to Tom when that
Can you go
happens,
outside?
because I know that when I take the ferry over, it's a little bit harder, in the long run. So just keeping that in mind for our listeners. Um, Pete, from the opening of this play, from the beginning of this play, what was the thing about the play itself that made you go, "Oh, this is something I want to direct. I can wrap myself in this play. There's something here." What might that have been for you?
Uh, both is that it's indigenous, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I
That's
just
fair.
want yeah, and I feel like indigenous theater is kind of still at its infancy, and it has like this weird trajectory upwards, and then like theater collectives and groups kind of disband, and then in each new area, just kind of just this wave of like whereas like it's really entrenched in the community. So I feel like every time I come to like a theater space, I feel obligated just to share
Yeah.
what I know in the in place of where like I was a new theater experience. So for me, I want to like expand and improve the theater practice as an indigenous person through that directorial lens, and really try to embody some more like healthy ways of engaging and looking at indigenous theater.
Well, and I'm really glad that you said that because I think that there's something lovely. There's not a lot of Indigenous theater being done at this moment. Tom, you've really carried the forefront of this and pushed this progress, I think, this beautiful progress in Indigenous plays and playwrights. What's your passion, Tom, for you to have brought the Indigenous work? Because reconciliation, as you mentioned, you started sitting around during COVID, reading together and doing that, but you chose specifically Indigenous theater. I'm curious about that.
I guess there's a couple of reasons, Kathy. I'd be lying if I didn't just say honestly that my family and I just made a pretty profound commitment to reconciliation ourselves about a decade ago.
Yeah,
We think it's a fundamental understanding that all Canadians would benefit with, working on.
1,000%.
And everything we've put into it has come back to our family, tenfold. So it's been a fantastic investment in our time. As a theater practitioner, I'm going to tell you that the history of theater is really the history of voicing the unvoiced,
Yeah,
and people who are often marginalized groups that don't have strong ways to express themselves in our community often turn to storytelling and theater first.
yes, yes.
If you look at the last 100 years of Canadian theater, you can see different groups that have emerged. Labor used it in the Depression. The women used it in the post-World War and up into the 70s. The LGBTQ community has used it in the 90s. And frankly, the most exciting space in Canadian theater right now belongs to Indigenous writers. The challenge for an artist like me is that as a settler, I love the stuff, but I can't begin to perform it or be part of it until I create the community that can actually produce it.
Indeed.
Because it's not every company that can say we're going to produce a Drew Hayden Taylor play, and we actually know where we're going to find the Indigenous talent to do it. There's something about, kind of a if you build it, they will come. And we're starting to have people find us, people who make Nanaimo their home. Our community of Indigenous people are not they're not generally from Nanaimo or the local nations. These are people who have relocated for family, education, professional reasons. And we're lucky that we're beginning to have them find us the way Pete did, the way another woman, Marissa, did. She's a leader up on VIU campus, and she found us this year. This young man who's acting in the show with us. People are starting to find us because we've put the time in to make this our focus. That's beginning to give us some amazing opportunities. We're about to go and perform. We're back at Inclusion BC this year. June 19th, we'll be performing at the River Rock Theatre for a huge crowd. And we're finding that groups up and down the island who understand that reconciliation is an important Canadian value. They're finding that by bringing us in, they can begin to open up their spaces. They can introduce their regular audiences to Indigenous work, to Indigenous performers, and make those connections. We have wonderful, supportive people at the Sid Williams and Courtney at River Rock Theater, River City Stage in Campbell River, and down at Langham Court Theater in Victoria. We're starting to hear from faith-based groups. The St. Mary's Parish in Ladysmith is bringing us in just to perform in their basement. So, we're really about trying to also help groups that also want to be on a reconciliation journey meet their own goals by partnering with us.
And the opportunity in this particular play to have it shown island wide is very important as well. And I understand you have several dates. Tell us about what that looks like. What are the dates for the play? When's your first opening night in Nanaimo? And then let's take it from there.
Yeah, so like I said, we're going to be performing for Inclusion BC on the 19th, but then we come back to Nanaimo and we will be opening for the Nanaimo public on July 27th.
July
We
27th.
perform the 27th, 28th, and 29th. And then we give the guys a day off so that we can do a big afternoon show on Canada Day.
Great.
And then, so
Canada
those are the
Day will be
four
in
Nanaimo
Nanaimo as
shows.
well. That'll
Sorry. Yep, at the
Canada Day in
OV Arts
Nanaimo
Center
as well.
downtown. On the 3rd, we're performing at River City Stage in Campbell River. And on the 4th, we're performing at the Sid Williams Theater in Courtney. And then we also have a performance booked in Ladysmith on July 16th.
Great.
And we head down to Victoria to perform at Langham Court Theater the 25th, 26th, and 27th of July. And because it's impossible to remember all that, we put a website together. So
Hey,
we actually exist in the www world now.
love it.
Reconciliationtheater.ca. Your viewers can tune in there, find all the details, and actually buy tickets. So we're all grown up, Kathy.
I know, right? Like, oh, I'm so excited for you. You've come a long way from your production 4 or 5 years ago. Like, I mean, things are moving along. And in all honesty, I've seen most of them. I didn't see all of them. There was one or two of them that I missed, but I've seen most of them. And they're fantastic. They're absolutely fantastic each and every time.
Thank you.
So our audiences will not be disappointed by this play whatsoever. Now, you did mention a little bit earlier Dan Puglis, and I'm curious, is Dan a part of this theater, this particular play as well?
He's our sound designer.
You sound, Dan.
Yep. And he's as part of the families. His dad is quite an artist, a graphic artist in his own right, and he's created I guess the set dressing. He's created some
Lovely.
artwork that adorns our set. So again, it's just kind of those intergenerational opportunities. We have a musician, our fiddler, Ken Shalafu, and his mom, Amy, who a lot of people will know around town from her wonderful work. She's on our board of directors. So,
Wow.
we're just trying to find ways that families can enjoy the reconciliation theater experience together.
I'm loving that. I love that you've grown. I love that you have a real live website where people can get information. I love the fact that more Indigenous theater is coming. That is for certain, and I look forward to seeing this play as well. Pete, prior to this experience that you've had with Tom, and I don't like, hopefully the ferry will be okay for our conversation for this part of it. Had you done any Indigenous theater previously, or what? I mean, you spent quite a bit of time in the theater, but what was your main genre as well prior to being the director of this play?
I want to say I exclusively did Indigenous theater and new work
Great.
theater, and it was kind of like this play itself is one of the few only like already made plays that I've done in my life, and and also too I've done a lot of like movement work in all the theaters I've done and performances, and that has been a very interesting experience for me. I never been like a dancer per se, except like when I used to work at the oil sands and I'll have a couple drinks and I'll dance funny for the people because I wanted people to accept me, so I gave them funny dances. But it turns out I did them so well that I was just really good at moving my body, and then transitioning into like movement on the stage was
How
very
fun.
easy. So
Ah,
yeah, so there's that. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, and I
and you're
think like
not in the oil
most,
sands anymore, Pete. The oil sands are, you're not at the pub or the oil sands right now.
yeah, yeah,
That's the
yeah.
good,
No, no.
that's how it is. Um, as far as some of the mentors that you've had growing up and in your work, especially around theater and reconciliation, have there been some outstanding performers that you've always followed along your route that has helped maybe influence you in your directing style?
Uh, I just want to say that the LGBTQ and the women community leaders,
Yeah.
they really carved uh what they can from the theater and really molded it to something that works for themselves, and that has been very inspirational. And
Mm.
I try to embody that effort to like be more inclusive, not only how I direct, but like how I talk, how I speak, how I behave,
Mhm.
and really speak up if there's something that is problematic and harmful to others. And yeah, and just that's uh that's how I mostly try to conduct theater performance just by watching what they do and just trying to embody those choices that they made.
That's quite brilliant because you're quite right. Marginalized people, they have brought or they bring, unfortunately, may not sound proper, so forgive me if it's not coming across, but there's a lot of pain that we see in marginalized community. And so to see people push through their pain and create something that is so inspirational and so open and so giving, I think is really one of the foundational pieces of art in general. But really, when it comes to good theater, I think we start to see some of that. Whether it's a funny show or not a funny show, there's always that root, that sort of life lesson that is being taught throughout the play as it goes. And I'm curious about the life lesson here in this particular play. As we talked about, the boy in the tree and the father and the son and the relationship that grows. Are there some pivot pieces in that kind of make a person go, wow, like I understand?
You have to pay.
Come see the play. Come see the play. That's fair. You don't want to give the plot all away. I understand.
Yeah, yeah, I have a hard time with like expressing and I kind of give too much detail, so I'm conscious to share my perception of how the story unfolds and
Sure,
those
sure.
aha moments in the play.
I
That's
think,
But
fair. That's
it's
complete.
great.
Kathy, if I can give it a try without giving it away, and I sure appreciate Pete pushing the ticket sales. That's great.
I love it. That's so
Um,
great.
I think what's interesting about this play is and the thing that really connects for me is that it's a story about trying to understand you and your identity and your family.
Yeah,
And this young person is struggling with that, as a lot of young people do.
fair.
And ironically, what is the answer? It's family.
Yeah,
The answer to family is actually family. The actually, it's to go deeper. And so I think that's the lesson that I'm taking away from not just the script, but also the experience.
yeah,
And so it's becoming this whole big onion layers of why family is just so important to us.
yeah,
And what's really nice is that we also have a kind of a more fluid definition of family. While Pete and I are able to work with, our biological kids and our direct families, we have people in the group that have become family through the process. Ironically enough, five different Cree, Métis Cree people from northern Saskatchewan have all met doing this show, and they've all been making these
wow.
family connections, and it's amazing to watch. On a local level, we've got this handful of kids who grew up in Harewood, did high school theater, and they're still plugging away at it.
Yeah,
And these guys they're not just close when it comes to doing the show. They always have each other's backs.
yes.
And so it's a real privilege to be able to grow up and spend your grow up, to have my kids grow up and to have me spend time in such a caring community.
I'm sorry, Tom. You're still growing up. I'm still growing up. We're all, I don't care where we are in this stage of life. Learning something new and learning something new about ourselves. I don't know about you, Tom, but I look at myself for the way things were for me 30 years ago and how they are different now, how I still feel like the 30-year-old. But there are behaviors I think that I still can resonate with as the 30-year-old, but my body says not quite so much, right?
Yeah.
I think we're constantly growing, and I think every time we learn something new about ourselves and our environment and the people we love around us, I think it just makes it a much more rich experience. Pete, tell me what you think.
Yeah, I just want to add more to it, more reason why to see this play.
Yeah,
I don't want to sound patronizing, but like the thing about theater that it's live and it's different every time. So if you've read the play and saw it performed elsewhere, come see it this time and see the different iteration of how it's performed, and there'll be different. I assure you, there'll be different aha moments for you as you see these actors share their talent.
I agree. There's a lot of plays that are out there that we've seen over and over and over again, and depending on the company, it's always different every single time. So, can I ask you, Pete? Because we've talked, I don't want to, because we want people to see the play, but I'm curious for your own side. Do you have a favorite play or a play that you absolutely love that you would want your children to see beyond this one? Because we know they're going to see this one, if not, and they're part of this one. But is there a play that you've experienced in your life that stands out for you?
Ah, man, there's so much to see. I guess I have to stick with the.
Yeah, unfortunately, Pete, I think we're losing you.
Having
We've
he
lost.
must be in the middle of the voyage.
I think that he's in the middle of the voyage, absolutely. So it's going to be a little bit harder. So we'll watch for Pete to come back. Tom, what about you? Have you got a play that stands out for you more than any other play?
Well, there's a couple of plays that come to mind that are really
And
they're touchstone plays in the Canadian Indigenous theater icon. They're by a man by the name of Thompson Highway,
Mhm.
and he's written two plays. One is called Res Sisters,
Mhm.
and one is called Dry Lips Ought to Move to Kapuskasing. And they are what I find really interesting about the plays is that, and this is from a theater producer's angle,
Sure.
is that one of them is seven male characters, and one of them is 7 female characters.
Oh,
And and so I've always held it up that reconciliation theater will have done its job, or will know it's doing its job when we're able to produce one of
mm,
those plays,
yes,
because that means we will have built the community that we've been aspiring to build.
yes,
You know, my kids have been fortunate to grow up and see so much theater. You know, they really have had just a real privilege perspective on that. What I really get excited about is when they can find a way to make theater their own. I have 2 sons, and one's a born performer, and one's a science whiz, and will be off to university in a couple of years, and who knows where he'll end up. But so he's actually found his way in through the technical side and into lighting. And so again, one of the joys of theater production and is that there's usually room for just about everybody to contribute.
yes,
And that's what I like my kids to be involved with is a project where everybody can feel valued, where someone can put up their hand and say, I know how to do this, and chances are we're going to be able to put that to good use. Yeah.
absolutely. You're absolutely right. I think that that's one of the things that I learned from the theater as well is that there's always no part is an unimportant part, whether it's you're
Mm.
on stage or behind the scenes or set directing or painting or cleanup or whatever. Every part of the theater, everyone comes together to do the great work that needs to be done in order for the show to go on. And so, have you seen a change in your kids since they have moved from doing some of those more backgroundy things to now being on set in a different way, like watching it, seeing it, doing it? And what's been most inspiring about you watching them go through that process?
Well, again, they were dragged to it as infants, so they didn't have a whole lot of choice in the matter.
Yeah.
What I really like about seeing them get into it is that they are creating community with people of different ages. Um, my kids are learning to be able to speak with adults, not just their peers.
Yes.
They listen to Pete, they take direction from Pete, they work with the other people in the company.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and it brings out a certain level of maturity and respect, and they begin to earn that respect back. Sure, for a long time they were just my cute kids kicking around, but
Yeah.
now they have jobs.
That
And a couple of years ago my son actually said to me, Dad, I've been helping you with the lights for a couple of years now, and I feel like I'm just a helper. And so this year we've got him some help, but he's designing the lights himself. So it's just these little opportunities to make it your own, and to find your way to contribute. Because
There's something
I
lovely about seeing your kid's name in lights, right? Like whether or not it's like on the program, beside the program, how each way that it goes. And there's an amount of pride I know that goes with the kids as well as they see it for
immense
themselves.
pride.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
You bet. It looks like we have Pete back. Pete, were you able to come back to us and tell us what that play was that you enjoyed?
And that's why it's the best play in the world. And,
Well
no,
done. Well done, Pete. Well done.
it's called it's called it's called it, it's called Wasabi Beer. A short iteration of Regina Fringe in Saskatchewan,
Yeah.
and it was mostly in Japanese. I don't remember playing its entirety or even what it was about, but there was a transition scene where
You
It's
know,
just not fair.
no, it looks like we've lost him again. He's going to come back and give us that line one more time, I'm sure. Yeah, no, there's something to be said for that. Tom, maybe you can pick up some of that from where we were. Go
Well,
ahead.
he mentioned the Fringe Festival in there, and I think it's a really
single
good point
stage
that Pete
Regina
makes.
in BC. Yeah.
You're coming in and
Yeah.
out, Pete.
Yeah, you're in and
Ah!
out. We lost. Unfortunately, you broke up a lot, and I have a feeling that you're going to continue to break up just because we know you're on the middle road, the middle of the show. So if people are watching this on our YouTube channel, hope you're enjoying the background because it's really quite funny. He's making lots of faces, so we get to have the giggles between Tom and I. Go ahead, Tom. I'm sorry I interrupted
Yeah,
you.
that's fine. Let me tell you about what the fringe experience that
Yes.
Pete was referring to, and that his earlier reference to a lot of the work that he's done has actually not been scripted material because so much of the work that's happening in Indigenous theater is that new, it's that fresh.
Yes.
And one of the things Pete talks about his experience of being in the fringe. And it's a great opportunity for young writers, young companies. They don't have to put a lot of money out. They don't have to put a lot of time in, and they can get something up and get it in front of an audience. One of the joys that I get to do this summer as Reconciliation Theater's artistic director is I'm going to go to the Edmonton Fringe because I go to Edmonton Fringe every summer to try to go and see all the newest Indigenous performances that are out there.
Yes.
We're working with a group of two women from just outside of Calgary who are working on a script called Talk Treaty to Me. And it's a fantastic script. It hasn't been published yet, but we're working on trying to get some grant money and to get them to bring it out here. And they're thinking about adapting it to the Douglas Treaty experience here on Vancouver Island. And
Lovely.
so there's all these really profound connections we can make, and all the time it's wonderful because you're just lifting up other Indigenous artists. And so this is one of those situations where we can really amplify each other's voice.
Yes.
And I just, it may be a simple thing, but just even having a website and being able to feature not just Reconciliation Theater's work, but to make sure that people understand that there are so many amazing young artists that we should be paying attention to, not just for their talent, but for their message. They come with a
Great.
unique lived
Yes.
experience.
Yes, a very unique experience, and I think you're quite right. I think that one of the things I'm most proud of living on the West Coast, and especially on Vancouver Island, is that our appetite for reconciliation and theater together is really quite strong on the West Coast of British Columbia. I was curious when you said that you were going to the Alberta Fringe Festival. Do you find it the same way there? Do you think is it a Western province kind of thing, or do you find it across Canada that people are more accepting of Indigenous theater as a whole?
Well, BC, to my experience, is at a bit of a forefront when it comes to this work. What's really interesting is lately there have been two groups that I know of, and maybe you've heard of Dr. Cranmer, who up at VIU, she wrote a play called The Nanaimo Indian Hospital.
Mhm.
And so what she did is she took all the history of the hospital that, everybody who grew up like me in Nanaimo had always talked about, what happened there, heard stories about it. And she took that and she did the research and she turned it into a live theater performance about attending the Indian hospital and some of the horrible things that happened there. Um, this has been an act of social justice and not just art. This is about correcting history. This is about putting, again, we talk about an unvoiced people. 50 years ago, those patients at that hospital didn't have a voice, but Dr. Cranmer has given them one now, and hundreds of us have now heard the truth because of that work. There's another woman out of Victoria, Catlia, Catlia Rhodes, and she has written it's a movement piece about the giant mine in Northwest Territories. You may remember it because it was a sign of it was a site of a labor strike that resulted in some deaths about 25 years ago. But it's also been leaching water into the local Indigenous population's groundwater for its entire existence. And so she has taken that story, quantified it, done the research, and has turned it into art. And
Wow.
as will be at the best, will be again, we're actually trying to bring them to a couple of our shows because we're trying to amplify other Indigenous artists that are doing amazing things. And so
Mm.
it's a little network, and we're pretty happy with how meeting amazing people, and
Well,
going to see some amazing work.
and another great friend of both the university and of Act Three and of my personal life for years is also Dan Elliott and his Reconciliation, The Winds of Change, and the work that he's done on print media and physical paintings to help move the agenda forward of people understanding that this is what happened, this is the interruption, and this is where we are today in trying to work through that. In knowing that we only have a couple of minutes left to the program, I'm just going to, because it looks like we've got Pete back. So let's see whether or not I can get Pete to come back and see if he has anything he'd like to say as we close. Pete, are you still there, or did you freeze again on us? Oh, there you are, my friend.
All
Pete, if you
right.
could, if besides getting people to come see the play, if you could share what your messaging would be to any community, and our community in specific, on about this play, or about your life lesson, or the things, the wisdom that you carry forward in doing this work that you're doing, what might that look like for you?
Um, I guess for me, I'm an aspiring artist, and 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 there's all these challenges that prevent you from making art, whether it be theater or anything else.
Yeah.
For people who live on an island and so close to Vancouver, it's an easy thing to say that because we live on an island and we're not in Vancouver, we're not recognized at the level as we should be. Is dispel all those feelings and all those expectations, and just continue making your art and making your craft at whatever engagement that you have, and that in itself would enrich the artistic practice in the island.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
if you don't make
If you don't make, oh, we lost mid-word.
We've got a
Tom,
little bit of gold there.
got
We've got a
some
little bit of
gold.
gold.
I tell you, we got some gold. How'd you like to fill up the rest of that basket?
Well, and this is what Pete has brought to us, and is this reflection. I wish he wasn't frapping out so much, because he
Mm.
really has so much wisdom from his life journey that he's taken, and the opportunity that he's talking about just being at one with your craft, and finding people that will support it, and don't get worried about the racket or the industry. Frankly, I think people that focus on the art ironically generally end up doing better in the industry in the long run. I
Oh, yeah,
think and to have a sustainable relationship with your creativity so that you can continue to do it for your entire life. We know a lot of people that maybe um, go a little hard and then fade away. When you talk about someone like Dan Elliott, I knew Dan 30 years ago as a fellow educator and artist.
yeah,
He's been on this journey for a long time, working in many different ways to have people understand and open their eyes. Um, it wasn't quick, but what an impact that man has had.
absolutely. He's one of my best friends in the entire world. I adore the man. And for the very same reason, it's like watching him in his perfection and how things keep going forward. And he just gets up and goes. And it's doesn't matter what he's doing, and community is doing it for the right reasons. And that's something we should all be grateful for. But you're a pretty good testament to that yourself, Mr. Tom Rugby. I have to say, you've certainly made your mark here. You've been in education for I don't know how long, but a long, long time. And now to take this work forward after leaving the education and now doing this for reconciliation, I mean, good on you. Um, we only have a moment, so I just want to make sure I get this out. How do people get those tickets that Pete was saying that we have to go get, go pay, go see? How do we do that
I'm
one more time?
surprised he told you the title of the play, Kathy.
I
He
know, me
really wants
too.
people to pay for it. Well, the simple way is reconciliationtheater.ca. So reconciliationtheater.ca, and you can find out all about Reconciliation Theater Society. You can follow our tour dates across Vancouver Island. You can meet the board and the people that are involved. And more importantly, you can buy tickets for our Nanaimo, Courtney, Campbell River, or Victoria performances. We are so excited to be going back across the island this summer. Every time we go, we make new friends, and then the next time we come back, they bring two friends, and it's a wonderful way to spend your July. I
Absolutely.
wish I could take you all with me, but we can at least join us for one night.
Well, join us for one night. Go and see the play, The Boy in the Treehouse, directed by Pete Kitewayhat. Pete, I'm so sorry. See, I told you. I even have it written down. I even have it written the way it's supposed to. So please forgive me. Have a very safe journey on the rest of your way home. Folks, if you have just tuned in, you've missed the show. I'm so sorry about that, but do tune in and see us on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to see our show on Rogers Cable 4. Tom and Pete hopefully will be joining us on the next episode or one of the next episodes coming up. And we get to talk with them a little bit more. And in the meantime, get yourself over to reconciliationtheater.com, right?
.ca.
.ca.
Absolutely.
Reconciliation.ca. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Pete. Safe journey, safe travels, and everybody else. Have yourself an absolutely brilliant day. We'll see you next time on Act 3.
Thank you, Kathy.